Hello, everybody. Today we are working on uh, some modifications. Let's see. I got to get some things off my screen first. So we can hide that for now, and we can also hide the microscope. Okay. So we went ahead and we made a small little PCB here today, and we're gonna take a look at that. So let's go ahead and cut this open. This is something I had Devnall help me with. Since he does some PCB design stuff. He's still kind of a little bit on the new side to it, but he does good work. And what this is here is we've got. Let's see how it comes. Oh, there we go. That's not too bad. I'm gonna have to file off the little edges here. I mean, it would have been nice if they did that, but that's pretty cool. Okay, so what this is uh, there are those Starlight kiosk Wii's that exist, and one of the things about them is that the ODEM board or optical drive emulator board that is inside of them, also known as the squirrel board, it authenticates with an external device. And that external device uh, is a controller select module that allows the user to either have access to the two Wiimotes for two-player or a Wiimote and nunchuck for games that utilize that. Um, but that board, it has a PIC 18F2321 microcontroller on it, and so that communicates with the squirrel board to make sure that the console is still within the kiosk, so somebody can't just steal the console and run off with a Wii full of games. Um, so then if they do try to, then it can't authenticate and it won't run any of the games. So one of the problems with it is that these uh, these Starlight kiosks, they have been starting to get phased out. Newer versions have come out for the Wii U and the Switch, and those are primarily used in hospitals now, as opposed to the Wii ones. And the Wii ones, they're having some issues. They're getting old, starting to break down. The wired controllers, the wires will start fraying and splitting, and the hard drives within the console will start failing. And another thing that does start failing is um, it'll start failing the controller select PCB, whether it be the wires to the controller select PCB or the whole module itself. And a lot of people, what they've been doing is they've been pulling the consoles out of the kiosk and then selling them on eBay. And without the controller select PCB to authenticate with, then those are useless. We had another user here, Jamie Co, that had gone and done a bit of reverse engineering on the Starlight Wii and did some amazing work on it. And one of the things that they did is they got their hands on the actual controller select PCB, which I unfortunately have not had my hands on one yet, and they removed the PIC 18F2321 microcontroller from it, and they were able to use a PIC kit. It's called. It's the programmer for these PIC microcontrollers, and he was able to extract the firmware for the microcontroller there, the controller select PCB. And he sent me that firmware, and I was able to go ahead and install it. Oh, the chips just happened to fall out when I do that. And I was able to install it on these uh, other PIC microcontrollers. They are still PIC 18F2321s, just in a little bit different of a package. They even sell them in smaller packages than this. But for our purpose, these work perfectly fine. These were the ones that were actually provided for me. I didn't pick these ones out myself. Um, but then Devnal, he after I confirmed that I could get it working, and did some little testing with it. I had Devno go and design up this PCB for me, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Is we're going to be going and soldering on these three chips. I could actually do four of them, um, but I think I'll probably just stick with three. But so we're going to be soldering these PIC microcontrollers onto these boards, and with the oscillator that is necessary. And that's pretty much it for today. We might do some testing if given enough time, but let's go ahead and get started with this. So first what we're going to do is, now that we've got that out, we're going to go ahead and bring our infrared preheater over. We're going to start heating it up. And I've got to put this on just because it's of the surface that it is. Yeah, I could do uh, four of them today, but then that will leave me with one that I don't have free to play with and try different things on. I'll have to order more soon. So um, these three will be plenty enough, especially for that I've got three Starlight kiosks or Wii's to still go ahead and modify. So this will fulfill that I need to do, and yeah, we'll be done with that pretty quickly. This shouldn't be too hard to solder. I've got my hot air station here. I'll just be using the soldering iron from it. And I've got my little bit of flux, the chips, and the 8 megahertz oscillators. The only two components that we absolutely need are just the microcontroller and the 8 megahertz oscillator. Um, there on the original controller select PCB, there were still a few other components, three capacitors, ceramic capacitors, um, and I did test omitting them and ensured that they work and work without the capacitors. And the reason why I did that and figured that was probably okay, most people would still want to include them for decoupling or something like that. But the reason why I chose not to include them is because in most normal cases, the controller select PCB is out on a long cable that runs to the Wii, at least a long enough cable where there can be some uh, issues with the signal or whatever like that, powering the microcontroller over long stretch and decoupling and whatever else that is necessary. Um, but since we are going to be then soldering this directly onto the squirrel board, there isn't going to be a lot of electrical issues that we're going to have. So this should be more than enough for us. Um, and as I said, definitely did a pretty good design of these. I told him exactly what was necessary for these to work and how I want it laid out, and he did it right up for me. Okay, so this is, yeah, starting to already get nice and toasty. So we'll go ahead and start soldering on it. Need to get my headset on though. So give me one moment here. Okay, and now with my magnifiers on, be a little bit easier for me to see and line things up. Turn things around this way. We've got our one pin in the corner here, and I'll go ahead and just put a little bit of flux here to start. Okay, and now with that in place, we can start heating up our iron. And since I'm using my infrared preheater, I'm actually going to keep the temp a little bit lower than I normally would. My iron I usually run at full blast at 480C. This I'm going to drop down to 360C. The main reason for that is because I don't want to burn up the oscillators. They seem to be kind of a little bit sensitive on that part, so don't want to take a chance. The microcontrollers seem to be a little bit more resilient to heat, but still uh, we're gonna still just use a little bit lower temp since we've already got the infrared preheater and we don't really need all that much extra heat for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop this one in place. See if I can get it lined up correctly. Um, this whole thing right now is a little bit warm, so I don't want to burn myself trying to do this. So little extra tools help. Okay. There we go. That looks, it's not perfectly centered, but yeah. Yeah, and of course, the more I play with it, the more I'm going to mess it up. I probably could have just taped them in place first. Oh, that's perfect right there. Okay. So then I'll get my solder. I am going to use the lead-free solder on this, even though I really hate using lead-free solder, but just for this situation, I think it's probably best that I do. And I'm going to start with just trying to get one pad in the corner. We'll hold this in place. Oops, I just ever so slightly knocked it off. I did have it perfect. That should honestly be good enough. Okay, I'm gonna get a little bit more solder on my iron now. As I get the sniffles today. Okay. Okay. I'll need definitely some more flux on that, but because I got a few bridges there, a few shorts, but add a little bit more flux here. I wish I had a microscope that was easy for me to mount over where I'm working so people could see it. Okay. This should be pretty good. Just go over this one more time to make sure. A little extra solder there, just break the bridge. That's good. And I just want to add a little bit more flux and go over this one side again. Although logic would tell me that I should only just complete this one first and then test it before going and soldering all the microcontrollers onto all of them. I'm a glutton for punishment, and that's obvious because I got married twice. So, if it doesn't work, oh well. Just blame the ex-wife. How about that? Okay. And let's get this second one on here. Okay. And as long as I can keep that still for me to get a couple pins soldered, that would be great. Okay, now this side. And I'll add a little bit more flux to clean up the joints. Okay, that should be good for those couple. And now we'll drop this last one in place, solder it, and then get the oscillators on. And I do have, oh, that was lined up almost perfectly. Oh, and then I screwed up. And I do have one Starlight board out and ready for me to be able to quickly test with. So we might do that if children allow me to. So as I said, the main reason why I'm using my infrared preheater is just because I don't want to end up burning out the oscillators while trying to solder them on. I tried removing one from a board, one of these surface mount oscillators, for my first time the other day, and I didn't realize how far underneath the pads went. And trying to heat it up, I ended up burning it out, and so I have to replace it from the board that it was on. Just a little bit more solder here. Actually, that one probably doesn't need any extra flux on the opposite side, but this side we'll do a quick run back and forth. Heck, we'll get both sides anyways. Okay. Okay. Now let's pull out 3 oscillators from this bag. Oh, what do you know? Exactly 3 fell out for me. Okay. And they've already got flux in place, so should be good with that. And there's no correct orientation for these oscillators. There's not a polarity or anything, so just gotta get this lined up a little bit. Now, ideally, we do plan to make a different version of these, of the what I'm calling the CloneMii, the controller select PCB here. We plan to make another version with the other supporting components, the few ceramic capacitors and stuff, um, and possibly with the smaller PIC chip here to make it even just a smaller package and easier to do, but that will come at a little bit later time. Let's see about. Come on. Come on. Soldering them on sucks just as much as removing them. Okay. Although I think that the pins on this one were a little bent out. Let me add a little bit more flux. I'm not having the best time seeing here. Okay. I really need an ultrasonic cleaner. Maybe I'll get one with my little payday that I'm getting here in another couple of weeks. Mm. Ah, okay, yeah. I'm not a fan of how this solders. So we'll just do it straight up like that. Yeah, I have a feeling that probably would have been a little bit better um, if the pads were slightly bigger. But, oh well. I can probably get away with a little bit more heat than what I'm using, to tell you the truth. Okay. That should be soldered on at least. Not really a fan of how it came out, though. I can always just reflow it if I need to, but it shouldn't be necessary. That's at least a little bit better. Okay, go ahead and move this out of the way here. Oh, that one was easy. Could use a little bit more solder on that one. I can just take it from this side. I probably could have used my my fine point tip on this. That should be good. And then we'll get this last one in place. And yeah, as I said, if I need to, I can always just quickly hit this with the hot air station to make sure that everything actually fully sits down. But I think we're probably pretty good. I almost think that my biggest issue right now is I probably don't have my iron as hot as I would generally use it at. So it's taking a little bit more effort to actually heat up this whole pad. Or better yet, next time I'll just have the manufacturer of the PCB actually install the components on me with the pick and place machine. Probably would make a hell of a lot more sense, but this is fine. Okay. See, that's probably pretty good. Probably really don't need to do anything beyond that, to tell you the truth. But boy, that is tight getting in between there to solder that. So now go ahead and put our iron off to the side for now. It's a little bit on the hot side. Okay. Let's get our boards off and out of the way. We'll scrub them down in a moment. That is very, very hot. So as I said, we are making these CloneMiis for Starlights that were sent to me. And there are two main different versions of Starlight Wiis. And it's just the only difference is really the squirrel board that's inside of them. One of the squirrel board types is for PATA or IDE hard drives, and the other is for SATA hard drives. And those hard drives go as far as 250 gigabytes in size that we've seen so far. Not sure if there's any larger, but I kind of doubt that there is. But yeah, an ultrasonic cleaner is definitely on my wish list. Then I would just go and drop these boards in instead. The other thing that we will end up adding to the newer versions of the CloneMiis are a programming port for the PIC microcontroller. Although necessarily, once it's programmed, it doesn't need to be programmed ever again. But if I'm going to have the factory build the board and solder on the components, then I won't be able to program them otherwise. So, we'll need a programming port for that, which isn't too big of a deal. Um, I could possibly even just put it on the underside of the PCB, so it's it's not as intrusive and doesn't make the footprint of the PCB any bigger. And that kind of seems like the ideal solution there. Okay, get this out of the way and all cleaned up. Okay. I might have to do a second cleaning to get the flux off. But that should have gotten most of it. And that is what we have here. CloneMii. Okay, now for me to actually go ahead and install one of these on the proper PCB. See, we made these so These will work best with the SATA type of squirrel boards because it already has four pads that are easily accessible for us to just go ahead and solder. Actually, no, I'm wrong. I stand corrected. For the PETA version of the squirrel board, which I don't have to disassemble right now. I've already got one disassembled for me to use. But this is for somebody else's console, so I probably don't want to go ahead and modify this. Actually, I'm still using this for testing to try to make my other version of the CloneMii board. But the way that these go is these wires get removed. These aren't normally here, but they've got the four pads that the wire is attached to, and you just solder on right through it, and it holds it all in place nicely. But I'm gonna have to go and file off the edges here so that they aren't so pokey and sharp. I'm kind of surprised that they left it like that to send it to me, but they're not the end of the world, not that big of a deal. Uh, so yeah, I think I'm gonna uh, stop right here, and I'm gonna come back on a little bit later, and we'll actually install some of these onto some squirrel boards. And like I said, I'm gonna keep that aside for my personal testing. Um, but thank you for coming, and we'll see you next time.